pandemic of COVID-19 has made many historical records. We have experienced the largest scale of a global pandemic since the 1918 H1N1 aka Spanish flu. We have experienced the worst financial crisis since 1930, the Great Depression. We have experienced the highest unemployment rate in the recorded history. We have experienced the largest drop in oil price ever. We have experienced the largest scale of government intervention, such as lockdown of cities and quarantine in human history. The great Warren Buffett has been winning his entire career but lost $49.7 billion in the first quarter of 2020. Coronavirus doesn't lie. It doesn't discriminate and doesn't play political games. The four primary features of the virus: high infection rate, long incubation period, low mortality rate, and intermittent intensive care needs have penetrated some best healthcare systems in the world. The virus doesn't bullshit, regardless how arrogant or full of shit you are, regardless how deep you bury your head in the sand, regardless how many 5G cell phone towers you destroy, ventilators and ECMOs. Those are all we have to treat the sick. National scale quarantine, personal protective equipment, massive testing. Those are all we have to control the virus. There's never anything new. Everything has happened before. Shakespeare once said, "The past is prologue." Mark Twain said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." George Hegel said, "The only thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history." We can actually know the future by reviewing what has happened before. In human history, there were a number of large pandemics that killed a large number of people, just like COVID-19. However, this time, there is something else also extremely important that is happening. 5G. A lot of people underestimate what 5G can do. I'll get back to it later. I can tell you now 5G is not like 2G, 3G, or 4G. It's not a simple upgrade. 5G means a different world. Okay, when I try to find pandemic and technology changing our lives at the same time in history, the only example I found is Black Death in the 14th centuries in Europe. The pandemic of Black Death led to a series of events which completely changed human life. Those events include the Renaissance, the rise of the textile industry, the fall of the manorial system, the sprout of capitalism, and all these led to an industrial revolution in the 18th centuries and consequently led to everything happened later than to our lives today. Everything happened for a reason. All these events are connected, one way or another. Because of the Black Death, many lives have lost. Because of many lives have lost, people try to find new ways to work more efficiently without a large number of labors, and this led to new technologies. New technologies significantly improved the productivity, and with fewer people there to share the financial benefits, people became rich. Well, at least some people rich. On the other hand, the pandemic took religion off the high throne. People didn't believe the God the way they used to do. We started to realize that we're individual people. Once that happened, people started to question the meaning of life and who we are again. This nourished the Renaissance, and the Renaissance in turn boosted individual consciousness, and it further upgraded what we want in our life. Food, clothes, medicine, personal belongings, and private properties means more than ever to any person. Rich people, the step back of religion, and the right to property created a virtuous cycle. Personal belongings, private properties are respected more than ever. People want more after they actually have something for themselves, so they work harder and smarter, and then they become richer. Then they want even more. In the next 300 years, Europe was progressing at a speed that human has never seen. In early 18th centuries, UK surpassed China, became the most powerful country in the world. In 19th centuries, USA surpassed the UK and have continued to this day. What can we learn from the history? How will COVID-19 change our world? Business. Firstly, COVID-19 killed thousands of people and making the ones alive poor. Unlike Black Death, which killed millions, COVID-19 killed fewer people, but everyone lost a lot of money. Really, you're not alone, everyone lost some money, the poor and the rich. In terms of finance, COVID-19 changed the world more than the Black Death. People who are working for someone lost some income because his hours might get cut or might get fired. Business owners too. I actually own a business here in Australia, but because of the lockdown, my business had to close for weeks, not like 1 day or 2 days, for weeks. And during that period, my business had to close. I had zero income, but my expenses were still ongoing. Rich people are doing no better. I guess you all heard how much money Warren Buffett has lost. So I actually know someone who was extremely rich, but now basically broke because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I always think there's a big difference between the people who are rich and the people who are wealthy. They're different. So this person I know owns dozens of business and properties across the whole world. His income is huge. What he makes in a month probably equals to what I make in 20 years. But his debt is also huge. So the mortgage rate, interest rate he has to pay every month equals to what I make probably like 30 years. Yes, this person is actually make less than what he has to pay. For him, if the snowball keeps rolling, everything will be fine. But this time, the COVID-19 pandemic forced everyone into quarantine. All the business had to close. So the snowball has been stopped. Now, this person is really screwed. One of the consequences of this pandemic is that everyone now is broke. We then started to see the trend of minimalism. So what is minimalism? Basically, people believe less is more. From a businessman's perspective, the concept was better and more thoroughly explained in the book of The Innovator's Dilemma, written by Clayton Christensen in 1997. Generally, when we look at the development of a product and the demand of people, we will see 3 different stages. In the early stage, we want more than the technology can provide. I remember when I bought my first iPhone. I loved it, but I still prefer to watch videos on my computer, take photos with my Canon camera. This is the stage where the product is still flawed, and I want more from it. In the second stage, technology is giving us exactly what we want. About like 3 or 4 years ago, the smartphone was perfect. The price was reasonable, and everything they put in the phone served all my needs. In the third stage, technology is giving us more than what we actually want. I bought an iPhone 11 and it cost me like $2,000. But I don't feel like I become more productive or enjoy it more. Because they are more expensive, but most of the features they put in that phone doesn't, exceed what I can use. I take photos with it. It doesn't appear to be better than iPhone 8. I watch video on it. I feel like it's exactly the same as my iPhone 8. So I play games on both phones and I can't tell the difference. So basically I am paying more for the new iPhone 11, but I don't feel like I'm getting more from it. It doesn't give me more. What COVID-19 changed is people started to refuse to pay for the third stage, the part that needs are overcompensated. iPhone is just one of the examples. Products or services like that are everywhere. Do we really need to travel to the most remote island in the world for a good holiday? Do we really need to buy a computer that is good enough to launch a rocket to the moon when all we need from it is online browsing and Microsoft Office? Are we actually that busy that we can't call the restaurant to order food then actually drive there to pick it up? Do we really need to order the food to be delivered to our door? In most cases, we don't. We need product and services to do certain things, and most of the time, it won't cost too much to do it. The COVID-19 will cause people to refuse to pay for overcompensation, and at least in China, most overcompensation is from the West. So this will create the best opportunities for Chinese small businesses to really thrive. Don't get offended, my Western friend. What I'm saying is, the best product and the best services are generally from the West, but at the same time, they are more expensive too. I think they're designed for a specific group of people, either like super rich or like super professional, but they're not for everybody. For everybody, they are overcompensation, especially now since everybody is broke and nobody is willing to pay for extravagance anymore. And there's nobody in the world doing better than Chinese businesses to provide value for money services and products. Small businesses from the West will still have opportunities, but they will become more focused. We will see many niche brands making all kinds of strange products for very niche markets. You will see more YouTubers and more internet celebrities. Content from the internet will be more professional. This led to my next point. We all know the Pareto principle. 20% of the people have 80% of the wealth in the world. In any one industry, 20% of the companies will make 80% of money. However, this rule won't work in the future. The future will be very extreme. 1% of the people might have 90% of the wealth in the world. 1% of the company will make 90% of money. In the future, the difference will be exponential. Remember this, okay? I'll get back to this later. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that the USA is neither willing nor able to play the role of an overarching power in the world anymore. We heard news about countries directly hijacking orders of medical equipment from factories and airports in China. We have also seen reports mention that some European countries detain other countries' medical goods for their own use just because these goods transit through their airports or wharves. This forces a number of countries to send military planes directly to China to directly pick up the medical supplies themselves. The world is clearly falling apart. For the first time after World War II, we have entered a stage with no country is policing the world anymore. Now that US doesn't have enough power to control and coordinate the world like it used to be, so they obviously want to settle for the next best to control China in order to achieve the goal of controlling the world. China obviously won't agree to that, so the confrontation between the two countries will last for a long time. But this time, there is a very important variable in the future. That is the unprecedented technology, 5G. Finally, I got to my key point. Remember I said, in the future, one company can make 90% of the money in one industry. Here's why. Because a couple of the big companies will have some sort of irreplaceable and important technology, will not only dominate the market, but also dominate the world. And these companies will be so giant that they might be more powerful than most of the countries. Also think about this, guys. Why US politicians keep telling other countries that Huawei is spying, stealing, and hiding? In 2012, White House took an 18 months review of Huawei and found no evidence of spying. In 2015, UK's Intelligence and Security Committee reviewed all of Huawei's source code and concluded that there is no evidence that Huawei has presented any risk to UK's national security. In 2018, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity reviewed Huawei and see no reason for banning them. In 2018, Huawei opened up everything to the Federal Office for Information Security of Germany because clearly they have nothing to hide. However, American politicians are shamelessly doing their best to frame Huawei and try to kill the business, but they never had any evidence. Zero. If they have one proper evidence, they'll make sure everyone in the world sees it. But why? Why do they do this? They do it because Huawei already has the fundamental technology to become a supernova company in the future. 5G. More importantly, in terms of 5G technology and applications, the US has fallen hopelessly behind. Many people don't know what 5G can do. They thought it is just a faster internet. Yes, the internet is faster than before, but this time the speed increases so much that the development of the technology is not just a quantitative change, but a qualitative change. Let me give you guys an example. Computers. The computer we use today has many parts, such as CPU, graphic cards, memory cards, and so on. But with 5G, the internet is so fast that we don't need all these parts anymore. We only need one super company to do all the job. Everybody else only need a mouse, a keyboard, and a monitor. Actually, you know what? Since the internet is fast enough, everything we see, everything we touch can be turned into a computer. Your table, your mirror, your floor, couch, even the wall. They can all be connected by the 5G internet. Then, we don't even need the mouse, the keyboard, and the monitor anymore. This is called IoT, Internet of Things. All we need is some sort of data transfer receiver, and that's it. We have a computer. Also think about cars. The main reason why the auto-driving technology is not particularly mature today is that in order for a computer to drive the car, we need to install a large number of sensors, computers, or different kinds of equipment on the car. With all this stuff installed, the car will be too big, too heavy, and too expensive. But with 5G technology, we don't need them anymore. Some sort of transceiver device that connected to the supercomputer by 5G network will do all the work. In addition, since everything is connected by the network, everything is online, we don't actually need to leave our house anymore. The reason we need to travel is because we need to be there, right? Use our hands to work and our eyes to see. But now, since everything is online, we don't need to travel anymore. For example, doctors. Doctors can do surgeries online. They can control all the equipment they need with internet, and this internet will be so fast, just like the doctor is there. All the sensors can capture all the sensory data over there and send them back to the doctor in real time. This data can be simulated and fed back to his senses. He will know the temperature, the texture, the pressure, and everything. Perhaps he will feel even more than he was there, because he can get old and lost some sensitivity. But the machine won't. When they do, we just adjust the sensitivity or replace them with new ones. The craziest part is, the 4G telephone tower today can only receive and send data. But the 5G telephone tower will be an AI computer itself. It will do many things all by itself. Firstly, we rely on GPS to navigate, but it is obviously too slow and not precise enough for auto-driving a car. With 5G telephone tower, we don't need GPS anymore. The tower will map the area and provide an extremely fast and extremely precise service for the car to drive itself. Secondly, AI technology today is still struggling because it doesn't have enough data about this world and the people living in it. With enough 5G towers, the AI will be able to learn everything it needs to learn. And AI plus 5G, the company has the technology, will be able to everything that is happening in the world. When you know everything, you will be able to control everything. That is why these US politicians are trying their best to ban the business, trying their best to ban Huawei, especially now when they're falling behind in this technology. But actually, we can't avoid development of technology. We never have, we never will. In the future, we will see some companies control this technology. A couple of them, 3 or 4 maximum. And those companies will basically build a world. It will be virtual and online. And most people in the world today will be living in the world they built. Very likely this new world will be mostly built by US and China. But looking at the relationship between the two countries right now, I believe the rivalry, the confrontation between those two countries will last for a long time. But the good part is the technology will bring all countries together so close that US and China will have to work together. It will be more difficult for politicians to lie anymore. So at least there will be less misunderstandings in the future. Here comes my ultimate question. With 5G and AI, we can know everything and everyone in the world real time. We can simulate our feelings just like we are there. We can actually build a new world online. It is something that can be done, not by some aliens with crazy advanced alien technology. It can be done by us, human, and not thousands of years later, soon. Then, the ultimate question is, how can we sure it hasn't already been done? How do we know we're not living in one? How can we tell if this world we're living in is not built by someone before us? How can we tell if everything we see, we feel, we know is not simulated? How can we tell if this world is real?